We do now know today that the Obama administration is weighing the merits of taking China's censorship of Google to the World Trade Organization, the WTO, as an unfair barrier to trade, a move that could raise further diplomatic tensions. So for more on this and the other implications of this showdown, let's turn to Colin Maclay. He's managing director of the Berkman Center for Internet and Society at Harvard University. He also monitored the hearing you just saw on your screens that occurred yesterday on Capitol Hill. It was focusing on internet freedom, and now we're also looking at possible legislation coming out of this. But top of the agenda first here, Colin, the question of taking this to the World Trade Organization. Google's pushing for it, saying this could be an impediment to actually doing business. This isn't necessarily just about censorship. This is actually a trade dispute as well. How much merit is there to this case?
Well, I think absolutely in this case, in the case of China, they have used this particular strategy to address both narrow economic interests of China and advance their censorship agenda. So by blocking or making it difficult for Google and others to do business in China, they also serve the function of protecting national businesses in China, which are going to be naturally subject to greater control and greater influence of the government, which both builds national resources in the sense of building successful companies, but also helps them to restrain speech and otherwise abridge rights to fundamental human rights like the right to privacy. So even though domestic companies like a Baidu, which is a competitor to Google, are affected by the same censorship, that this would be somehow favoring them. You know, it's a complicated issue, and I put it to the head of the World Trade Organization, Pascal Lamy, when I spoke with him back in Davos. Take a listen to what he had to say.
The question is whether the rules of international trade are an issue in this field. And frankly speaking, I don't know. I mean, it's a very complex issue. Now, if China has a problem with the way US behave, or if US has a problem with the way China behave, and it has to do with the regulation of international trade, they can go to WTO, which will litigate, arbitrate.
But you don't expect that to come to you at this point?
I haven't seen that coming for the moment.
He didn't see it coming to the World Trade Organization. I mean, is this just posturing, or do you really see this, Colin, heading for arbitration?
There's been, I mean, it's hard for me to predict what's going to happen within WTO, but I think this particular line of reasoning and concern has been on the table for quite some time. And I think it is clear that while China, for instance, is actively pursuing a very nuanced, complex, and ambitious agenda to censor, it also is doing so in a way that that has real trade implications. And I think absolutely this is an intersection of our kind of the importance of fundamental human rights, but also of a trade barrier and a place where we want to make sure that that the playing field is level for all companies, regardless of their provenance, ultimately with the goal of having the best information and communication services available in any given market, because those are going to be fundamentally linked to social and economic development, better Colin, governance and education.
It's an argument that you can make, and you're doing it well. But then you don't see the Yahoos, you don't see the other big tech giants standing up in solidarity with Google here saying, you know, our trade issues are really being hurt here, our interests are being hurt. But then you do see it as a political issue. We had Senator Dick Durbin, the majority whip, just yesterday saying that he plans to introduce a bill to sanction web companies that do not promote internet freedom. This seems to be almost a value-based argument, not a trade one.
See, I would disagree. So I think in terms of the hearing, well, first of all, in terms of different addressing and advancing internet freedom, I think there are many paths towards it. We don't have an answer. There is not one single thing or one suite of things that companies must certainly do to maximize our internet freedom. The approach that Google has taken is certainly one very exciting and interesting one, but it's far too soon for us to tell whether that's the right one or that's a correct one. We're hopeful, of course, but I think companies, I can speak to Yahoo and Google and Microsoft in particular are absolutely making substantial efforts to boost internet freedom in other ways that may not be as public in some instances. Now, what we learned at the hearing yesterday, I think, was really about the complexity of this particular situation. I think Senator Durbin and his committee have really gone a long way, gone deep into this issue. We're not just looking for political points, but really trying to solve it.